All right, let's talk about productive capacity. Well, I'm going to define productive capacity from a macroeconomics point of view, but in order to understand it from a macroeconomics point of view, let's go back to our example of cooking or of baking chocolate chip cookies. All right. Do you remember how we said that if this baker uses all 3 hours and swaps out the cookie sheets from the oven right on time, right after 10 minutes, right? And puts the maximum of 12 cookies on every single cookie sheet, that this baker in 3 hours could make 216 cookies and no more than 216 cookies, right? That is the productive capacity of that baker in this operation. Productive capacity. It's the maximum amount of output that you can produce. It's the maximum amount of stuff that you can make. Now let's bring it over to a macroeconomics point of view. And here's what you have to consider. In our economy, in the United States especially, we don't have one baker. We have 200 million, not bakers, but 200 million different working people, or maybe it's more like 180 million, but there are so many different kinds of working people. We have lots and lots and lots of different labor. Different people that have different skills capable of doing different things. Some of them work faster than other people. Some of them are more creative than other people, okay? Not every worker is the same. But every person really is different in their ability to produce. Some people produce more, some people produce less. There's probably an average of how much people produce. There's also ovens out there, but there's not just ovens. There's conveyor belts, there's scanners, there's computers, there's phones. There's lots of different kinds of capital. There's not just bowls, racks, and spatulas. There's wires, there's heating units, there's wheels, there's pulleys, there's cranes. There are millions upon millions of different kinds of capital in this economy. Ingredients. There's lots and lots of land. There's cows, there's milk, there's trees, there's land, real estate land, there's grass, there's water, there's wind, there's air, chemicals, lots of different kinds of natural resources. And so, the idea is, in any economy, when you consider all of the land, labor, and capital, you can put that land, labor, and capital together in different ways. There is one theoretical way that you could put all your land, labor, and capital together that would give you the most output in your economy. Now, in real life, practically speaking, that probably doesn't really ever happen. But conceptually speaking, okay, when you think of it, when you narrow it down to just one baker, one oven, a couple cookie sheets, and a little bit of time, right? In a limited amount of time, and remember that output is in a period of time. Okay, so our productive capacity here is 216. But if we change the amount of time to 4 hours or 5 hours, or reduce it to 2 hours or 1 hour, then it changes the productive capacity. Now, typically in our economy, in macroeconomics, the amount of time that we're usually concerned about is 1 year. It's how much we can produce in 1 year. We usually limit our understanding, or we keep statistics month by month, but the large scale statistics we usually keep year by year, okay? But in a period of time, there is a most amount of stuff that we can produce in this economy, given our limited number of labor, our limited amount of land, and our limited amount of capital. And when you put our land, labor, and capital all together, however much, the maximum amount of stuff that we can produce, that's what we call our productive capacity. Now, I'm kind of lying to you right now because I'm trying to get an idea into your head. Technically speaking, our productive capacity actually isn't our maximum, but it is what I'm going to call our comfortable maximum, a maximum that can be maintained without stopping. Okay? All right, so productive capacity. Very simple definition, the maximum possible output of an economy. And this idea of productive capacity is going to come to play throughout the entire semester. You have to have a solid understanding of this idea of productive capacity. Now here's what happens. In an economy, we can increase our productive capacity. Our productive capacity, the maximum amount of stuff that we can produce, can go up if we change some things. And so here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that the productive capacity, it increases when factors of production increase and here's what I'm going to give you. I'm basically going to say when factors of production increase in quantity and when they increase in quality. When we get more factors of production in the economy, our productive capacity goes up. When our factors of production become higher quality, our productive capacity in the economy goes up. Now, the quantity of factors of production, I call that stock of factors. Stock of factors. So stock meaning like in the stock room. How much labor do we have in the stock room? How much land do we have in the stock room? How much capital do we have in the stock room? So we have a stock of labor, a stock of land, and a stock of capital in our economy. And the stock that we have, how much of it, that's the quantity of factors of production. Okay? The quality of the factors of production is called the productivity. The productivity of the factors of production. How productive are your factors of production? If you have a job, I want you to consider something. If you have a job where you work with other people, are there people at your job that don't work as much as you do? They can't produce as much as you can. You do more work than they do. Now, if the answer to that question is no, you may want to consider the possibility that you might be the least productive person at your job. And if that's the case, you might want to change that situation. But chances are, if you work with other people, there's always people at a job who complain about the one or two people that don't do much work at all. And nobody likes that. I didn't say that nobody likes them, I'm saying nobody likes that. They don't like the fact that some workers do more work and some workers do less work. That is the quality of the factor of production. Now, over here, let's say that this baker is really slow, and even though the oven can cook one batch in 10 minutes, the baker is so slow that they can actually only put 3 cookie sheets in the oven every hour. Well, if the baker was only fast enough to put 3 cookie sheets in the oven and take them out every hour, then the output would be limited by the productivity of the baker. The baker would only do 3 per hour times 3 hours times 12 cookies, and so that baker would produce 9 times 12, which is 108 cookies. So this baker, who is not as high quality, not as productive, is only going to produce 108 cookies instead of 216 cookies. And so by increasing the productivity, if we were able to get that baker to work harder in such a way that that baker can now do 6 batches every hour, then we could get that baker up to 216 cookies per hour. Okay, so the more productive your factors of production are, the higher quality they will be. The more productive they are, the more you can produce. That means that you can increase the maximum possible output. So one of the things that we try to do in the economy in the United States is we don't just want more factors of production. We don't just want to increase the quantity of our factors of production. We want to increase the quality of our factors of production. That's one of the reasons why we care so much about education. When we educate our labor, it becomes better. Well, not always, but a lot of times it becomes better. It becomes higher quality, more productive labor. Unfortunately, sometimes when we educate labor, it becomes less productive, but that's a phenomenon, that's an anomaly that I don't want to talk about in a principles class. But the basic idea here is this. We can actually not only make our labor higher quality, we can make our capital higher quality. We're constantly innovating to make our computers better, to make our power equipment better, to make our trucks better, to make our phones better. We're constantly coming out with new technologies and new applications and new features and new gizmos, all kinds of stuff that makes our machines and our tools more productive. So when our capital becomes higher quality and our labor becomes higher quality and now how do we make our land higher quality? Well, typically what we do is we make it so that we can get more out of the land. It used to be that they could only get so much lumber out of one tree, but they have figured out how to take the waste, all the sawdust and all the chips that come off when they're making lumber out of a tree. They figured out how to take all the waste and press it together into another product that's used in construction. What they've done there is they've increased the quality of the land, of the natural resources. In the very same way, we want to increase our quantity. We want more labor in the United States. We want more people that can get out there and work. There are people at home. We want to train them up who aren't currently working, and then we want them to enter the labor force and get out there and work. We want people to last longer in the labor force. Instead of retiring at 62, maybe they'll keep working until they're 70, okay? They're becoming healthier and healthier. That increases our quantity of labor. We also want to increase our quantity of capital. We save up our trucks and use them as long as we can, hopefully. We can, if we keep using our old desks and our old computers and our old phones, if we get new capital, but we don't throw out the old capital but keep using it, then we'll have more capital and it'll increase the productive capacity of the economy. And the higher, you're going to learn this later in a few weeks, you're going to learn that the higher the productive capacity, the higher the maximum possible output, the more satisfaction that we get, the more stuff there will be for us to consume and enjoy. And that's good. So we want this productive capacity to be as high as possible in the economy. Okay? Now, I'm going to say one more thing about this quantity and quality. Sometimes the stock and productivity of factors goes down. When it goes down, productive capacity will decrease. So there are some economies that actually their productive capacity goes down. How much they can produce gets smaller. Why? Well, one big explanation is war. Okay? So when a country is experiencing war inside of their borders, when there's explosions, bombs exploding, what are they exploding? Well, they're exploding labor. They're killing people. Exploding buildings. Capital is being destroyed. And when capital is destroyed and labor is destroyed, and when they destroy natural resources, okay, like killing off cattle or destroying fields that have food, when land, labor, and capital are destroyed, the quantity, the stock of factors goes down, and now they can't produce as much in that economy. And that is a decrease in productive capacity. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important for countries that have a lot of civil war inside. They're killing each other, they're shooting each other. Instead of using guns to kill each other, they should be working together to build up their stock of factors and their productivity of factors, and then use them in good ways to make their economy better. If they make their economy better, they won't need to fight with each other anymore. There'll be enough stuff for everybody to be able to consume and have utility. Okay, so this idea of stock and productivity of factors going down, we want to be careful about this. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why war is so dangerous to economics. Okay, all right, now we're going to talk about capacity utilization.